Hello and welcome back to Live Now with Veenu and Chuck on Spanglish World Network and her network on Zingo TV's channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores, iOS and Android devices. While you download, please leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Well, we're back again, my brother from another mother.
So great to see you. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good, especially because of this topic.
Yes.
You know, how do we set other people up to win? And I want to start by saying that this was a big aha for me. And, you know, because you've known me for many years in different, let's say, arenas, you know, you don't know what you don't know. Let me just start off saying that.
Love that.
And when people don't know how to express the feedback to you so you understand it, it gets lost in translation. So I'm not saying no one's ever given me the feedback. I'm just saying it never landed on me the way that I understood it to be. And it was a self recognition. Like I realized it on my own without feedback, actually.
Oh.
And it was, you know, generally because of different arenas that we're in, we want to show up. And when we show up, we want the people who promote us and say we're doing good to see us. And
Sure.
So we put on this grandiose appearance of, look at me, I can do it, and I'm the best, because then they'll want me.
Mm.
And, you know, I've had this question in my mind that has ran my life since I was a little girl is, do they want me? What do I need to do to get invited? What do I need to do so you like me? What do I need to do so you accept me? And so my model of the world said I had to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no sense in being the best if no one's watching you. So
Right.
I had to be even bigger, the best. And what I didn't realize is, even though my heart was all service, I didn't realize that it made me look as if I only cared about me and not anybody else.
Oh.
And I guess it was hard for me, and maybe hard for people that gave me feedback, because my intention always shined through.
Mm-hmm.
And yet but the people that I wanted to see that intention didn't see it. They only saw, oh, she's doing this and she needs to be seen and she needs to take charge of this. And, you know, so these filters that were put on me at such a long time never had an opportunity to switch, because I still ran that program as, how could I be seen doing what I'm supposed to do so they want me, like me, promote me, whatever.
Mm.
So I had an opportunity about 2 weeks ago to serve at an event and speak on a big stage, which is always an honor and total gratitude. But this time when I landed there in Florida, I realized this time I'm going to come with a different program. This time, I don't care who sees me. I don't care what I look like. I don't care. And when I mean I don't care, meaning that it's not nonchalant, like, you know, forget everybody else, I don't care. I don't care where it really affects me to try to outshine people or try to show that I'm the best. I just showed up as me. But this time I had the program as, if I set everybody up to win, my support group that is going to be helping at this event, that's on my team. If I set my participants up to win, if I set my peer groups on each side of me up to win, if I set the person I was co-sharing with or co-presenting with up to win, what would that look like?
Mm.
And so that was my motto, and that's what I did. And there was no drama, there was no issues, there was no problems, and everybody won. All the outcomes were met. And at the end of it, I felt like I won.
Yes.
And there was no shout outs. There was no, oh, she did great. And what I realized was, I wasn't even looking for those this time.
Mm.
And it wasn't until the end when somebody said, now don't forget to put shining stars, that, and make sure you name someone. That's the only time I really brought attention to, like, okay. And then I had to ask myself, how did that feel not to have one? Did it take away from what I did? Did it take away from who I was? Did it take away from how I presented? Did it take away from any value that I got to add? And the answer was absolutely no, it did not. And so that's when I told you, I said, let's talk about this because I think that we don't look at that. I think we're always looking at who's watching us. How do we get promoted? How do we become better? How do I get more clients? If I can get out there big and bad and show this portion of me, then more people will come to me and hire me. And no, no,
Mm-mm.
I think we're missing the boat when we think that way. I mean, I missed the boat for a lot of years.
I'm fresh off the boat. So it's no, I love what you're saying, Vinu, and there's a lot of things that we can unpack in this. One is oftentimes we're expecting feedback when what we're actually praying for is feed forward. And
Mm,
that what we're looking for is someone who can help us see our blind spots. Um, Oftentimes we put a lot of connection and time into community and being able to actually say that we're in a sharing and caring environment. And to your point and to your observation, there are some times where the modality is that we're there in service, and that's always when we're there with the right motive and intention. The other side of that is, which is more of a sticky situation, is are we allowing, going back a couple weeks ago, someone else's opinion or outcomes to change our value and our journey in relation to this? I'm so proud of you that taking and let me be very clear, it's not that you adopted a laissez-faire mentality or heart set. It's actually the opposite, that you believed and trusted in yourself to such a degree that you knew that you could have all the mental acumen, all the information, all the stage presence, all the gifts and talents flow through you, and you could deliver with no other outcome than creating value.
yes.
This is when the insanity starts to kick up. And what I mean by that is that more people notice you, more people connect with you. And I have a belief around this, and that is when that is from us to we, it allows this entire facility to happen, which is now we're resonating at that 50 hertz that we talk about. So we're not getting by. We're not just doing a process. We're not just walking other people through. We're moving forward. And I love what our listeners are commenting, and that is, the honesty and the vulnerability. Well, that's who I know you to be. You're a loving, kind, giving soul. And it doesn't mean that we're not constantly moving towards improving ourselves and elevating.
Right.
So the question I would ask is, how did it make you feel to live in that space and that grace where you could flow through this? And because I can see it in your face, there's zero tension when you talk about this, by the way. Like zero, not a zilch. It's like,
I think this is the first time I felt 100% congruent because again, my heart has, and you know me, my heart is always to serve. My intention's always to serve.
yes.
And when I'm in that serving mode, it's all service. And yet when we get into different environments, it's, if they don't pick me, then I go back to not feeling enough. I was putting a meaning on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, okay, so in order to feel good, I got to let people see that I know what I'm doing. I'm the best. And in turn, I was pushing other people down to get like, I almost like visualize me stepping on people to say, look at me, I'm here. And that was never my intention.
No.
And and I say that because the way I felt afterwards, you
Mm.
asked me a question, how did it make me feel
Mm-hmm.
when when I was doing this? And I said 100% congruent. And I can't say I felt that at other events or at other opportunities. I didn't feel 100% congruent. And even though I got accolades like, oh, Veenu, you're so great. And thank you. And you're the best. I'm so glad that we got to work together and you added so much value. That's great. But something was different this time. It's, I knew inside that I added enough value to get people their win, that I didn't need people to tell me that.
Yes. So it's interesting in business because we use this terminology, and price is not an issue when value is at its highest.
Right.
And when our self-value is at its highest, the cost or the price is inconsequential.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
serving self, we're serving others at the highest level, we're in flow, we're in state. And I, I want to honor you for two things specifically right now. One, your vulnerability and authenticity to have this conversation. Oftentimes, when in the past we felt um, challenged, that we'll go back and find justification. And you're saying, no, I found freedom in me.
Yes.
And part of that comes from when we no longer allow other people's judgment of us, or quite truthfully, their opinions of and our expectations of their opinion. What gets in the way isn't our values. What gets in the way is our rules to meet those values.
Yes. 100%. 100%. And that's why I wanted to bring it on here, because if I, with all the knowledge and personal growth and experience, is finally coming to this aha moment, how could we help other people? Because we say, live now. We're going to live now. That's the name of our show. Live now with us. Live now through what we've experienced and we see that helps us grow. And I wanted to share that because what if we had a new model? What if all our listeners had a new model? Is how do I set my kids up to win tomorrow? How do I set my husband up to win? How do I set my business up to win? How do I set my colleagues up to win? How do I set my friends up to win? You know, you're going on a trip with your friends. How do I set them up to win so this trip is great for all of us? Because if they win, you win. And
Yes.
I came with that, and I can tell you, things started to shift even with my parenting. It's gotten even better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm less stressed about it because now I'm like, when they're frustrated and my tone gets elevated, and I keep saying I'm no longer the parent whisperer, I'm the parent yeller at times, you know, after I've whispered so many times it's not working. And it's like you shock the system, like, oh, mom's serious now. But I also realized if I had to dissect that, why does it take that? Because I trained her brain that way. I trained her to listen, 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 and then, oh gosh, now I got to take action because mom's voice is raised.
Mm.
And so if I'm going to set her up to win, first I have to be aware. I have to be aware of what the patterns are that she's displaying and that I'm doing, and vice versa. And then I have to say, okay, if I was going to set her up to win, what would I do differently? How would I do it differently?
It's interesting. We just went and watched a movie yesterday on Father's Day called The Flash, and it's a DC Comics, you know, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman.
I knew the Flash when I was a kid. Sorry. And
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. It's so what was interesting is that it's all about changing the past.
Mm.
And this is, and so there's this concept, and I'm just going to use these pencils for a moment, that if these are your timelines, to your point, of where you were in the past and where you are now, and are you in complete parallel? Now, here's what becomes interesting, and I thought this was just a brilliant observation. When we change anything in our past, we create a divergent model. Here's the interesting part. We not only change where we're going, we change what the meaning of it was in the past.
Correct.
And so we may not have access to the same resources that make us who we are when we let go of things and we don't take the lessons with us.
Yes.
So why do I go there? It provides us this very unique opportunity to understand that nothing you've done to this point is broken or wrong.
Correct.
And that in the pursuit of what we feel is even better, and I'll put it a different way. I know for a fact that in your intonation and voice, and simply by you switching frequencies and energy, what you say has different merit and value, and it has nothing to do with the volume of your voice. And how do I know this? Because I've seen you and I've known you for well over a decade. And so I go, okay, then it's not the conditioning of our kids. When we're setting people up for success, it comes down to one fundamental, and this is where that I'll say that deviation point is, because this is us. right where we cross, the union is us. We are the change. And so when we heard, be the change that you wish to see in the world, it starts within us to be able to shift and believe that we can co-elevate till we achieve. And this is something for me in particular that I'm finding is becoming so valuable as a parent, as a husband, as a friend, as a co-host with you, is the collaboration really is when we understand we. The only time I've ever suffered in my life was when it was just about me. I could use other people as an excuse or as the focus for my energy. But the truth was, they weren't suffering. I was the one suffering.
Right. And I think that God, you made such great points, such great points. And the reason why people don't change is because they keep doing what they've done in the past. So you're going to
Yes.
get the same results that you got in the past with the same actions. And here
Yes.
people fall into victimhood a lot.
Mm.
We fall into victimhood when we have to pretend that everybody sees us. And this is why I'm so honest and vulnerable, because I want people to get the learning here.
Yes.
And there's no sense in me looking like this person that's got it all together and my life is well, my life is great. And it's a lot of stumble and fall and get back up in my
Sure.
life. That's what makes it great, is that
No.
I am aware that there is no perfection of who I need to be. And
Right.
that all I can be is that, like you said, I love the saying, is that when you are living your best life, when you are being your best, then you have your best life.
That's
And
it.
and so it's for me to take awareness, and that's where the me comes in, is what's my ownership? What's my ownership? And am I going to play victim today where I'm telling everybody that I'm just wrong and I'm not great because I need people to see my greatness? Because that's literally what happens in victimhood. We need validation that we are who we say we are and we are congruent with the way we live. And when we're not getting it because our own personal issues that happened at work, or we made a bad, like, I mean, I made a bad investment not too long ago. It's like, oh gosh, that was not great. And that wasn't the end all be all to my life. Like,
Mm.
I look at my husband, I look at my kids, I look at the life I get to live, I look at the clients that I get to support in their life, and I get to help them move forward. That thing that I screwed up on, oh well, what did I learn from it? Great, not to do that again. And you move forward. And by taking ownership of who I am and of my own behaviors, now I don't play the victim card. I don't need validation that, oh, you did good. Oh, you were great. Oh, you helped me. I don't need that, because it's internal now that I am aware of what my strengths are and what I'm able to give to the world. But I'm also aware of where my weaknesses are and where it's okay to ask for help.
Definitely. And
And
that honesty and integrity brings it full circle.
it does. It absolutely does.
One of the things that was just beautiful about your purview of what transpires is not once in there did I hear judgment.
Mm,
Not once. And that's beautiful. One of the things that becomes so challenging for so many people is this concept of, am I valuable? And do I value myself more than others see the value in me?
right.
And
That
that feeds
I
into
think
a fear.
we need to let that land. Can you say that one more time? Because that was so profound.
Sure. So oftentimes the value that we aspire to, feel and see in ourselves, we're waiting for someone else to see it in us so that way we in some way, shape, or form can feel validated. And it's like going, oftentimes, and this is the craziest part. So many people are afraid of public speaking. So many people don't want to be seen. They want to hide. Yet the one thing that they desire the most is connection. And so they're going, okay, is it not imperative to be connected to self first before we actually start aspiring to have this connection outside of ourselves as well? And this is where changing our identity. And you so elegantly put it this way that when we are living in victim, well, that's just one identity. That's not the sum of you.
Mm-mm.
And I'll remind people that your body is designed, your 10 million year old monkey brain is designed to protect you, irrespective of whether or not you're aware of all the conditions around you. It's looking and making sure that your blind spots, that you have some awareness and acuity. So if you hear a sound, see a bright light, something garners your attention for a moment, especially for the feminine, because you're connected to everything all simultaneously. Dudes can be very myopic, especially if like football's on. Sports, UEFA, World Cup soccer.
Well,
And you're like going, I know, because I can sit there and be Samuel, Samuel, Samuel,
yeah,
Samuel. I know. That's for everyone who doesn't know, that's your son and he loves soccer.
yes,
And so there is so much stake in presence when we start to look at this elevation of self. And part of it really is Venu, and it just kind of hit me. It's self-respect. It's knowing that if it's going on stage, if it's coming on this show, even if you're tuning into this show, it's honoring self enough to be completely vulnerable and honest and take whatever lessons and learnings and whatever lands for oneself. And I'll say, try it on.
yeah,
You'll
absolutely.
fit if you try them on.
Absolutely. I love what Eric said. Is there a place to buy the book on Chuckisms? Because you're dropping gold today, brother. And I want to say, like, when we say, like, how do we set people up to win? It's not looking at yourself
Mm.
and saying, okay, well, if I help them do this and I help them do that, then they'll help me. That's not setting someone else to win. It's looking at what is going to bring out the best in them, what's going to help them add value to them, what's going to make their day, set them up to win their day. I ask my clients all the time. I work with a lot of teenagers, and I always ask them, I'm like, if you were going to set yourself up to win today, what would that look like?
Mm.
Here's the number one answer I get: I don't know.
Yes.
And, we could do the whole NLP thing, but if you did know, what would you say? But here's what I say to them. I said, you don't know what? You don't know if you're going to give me the right answer. You don't know if it's really going to set you up to win.
Right.
You don't know what setting it up to win is all about. Like, what is it specifically that you don't know? And
Well,
honestly, they don't have the game plan. They don't know what it's like to win.
so let's simplify it. You and I talk about this like weekly. This is the cornerstone. This is like the key to everything. We all have an aspiration to feel a certain way most often. And when we get clarity in what those emotions and feelings are, it changes the frame
Yes.
for our direction, our outcomes and goals, our identity, even our mammoth action that we take. And I'm like going, oh gosh, this is so insightful. And it's not yours or mine. This is nature. People are aspiring to feel a certain way. When we go on stage, we're aspiring to feel a certain way. If that's contributory, knowledgeable, intentional, valuable, connected, loving, guiding, whatever flavor that manifests at the time. I go, it's rainbow sherbet. It's a ton of flavors. For some people, it's like it's only 3. It's Neapolitan, so it's like, that's cool too. Some of you are crazy, need a little rocky road, so there's nuts in it. And so at the end of the day, what is your experience like? And how were you showing up? What was that identity?
Right.
The journey is the gift. So your experience with you delivering at the level that you did, Veenu, and I know you continue to do, and you're like, again, you're on fire tonight. I love this topic, and it's so compelling. You brought something up for me, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I if we can just dive into this for a second, because I really believe this has a lot of merit to what we're discussing.
Sure.
And I was
You know
I
what,
was
Chuck?
speaking.
Chuck, it's our show. We can take it wherever we want. What do you want to say?
Thank you. And so we've spoken about matchers, takers, and givers.
Yes.
And that takers take how often, matchers match how often, that they have an agreement frame, and then givers give how often. And then I came across something from a friend of mine that was pure platinum. I mean, it was just oozing. And he goes, mate, I think there's two types of givers and two types of takers. There's disagreeable givers and disagreeable takers. There's agreeable givers and agreeable takers. And I was like, huh, I smell smoke. Like my brain was like cooking at this point.
Right.
And to your point, you can be an agreeable giver and live in that space of gratitude and grace, and that you're not going to let anything take you out of you. Like you're so congruent in your identity that you're like rooted in this. And it's like the direction I'm going in, any direction that allows us to create wins for not just myself, for everybody, like you said, for the team and the support staff and it's like, hey, if you're listening into this, winning. If
Right.
you're involved in this and presenting with me, winning. Why? Because that energy is so contributory and inviting. Had you indulged in waiting for someone else's opinion of self, then you would have been a disagreeable giver. Because you're not in an agreement frame. You're like going, oh, well, I'm just waiting to see if I have affirmation and confirmation that how I was. I'm like, how you were? How are you now?
Right.
2 minutes ago is 2 minutes ago.
And you also asked a question is like, I think that we're always also looking at, we need to look at what's our measurement tool.
Yes.
What's our measurement tool to know that we're enough? What's our measurement tool to know that we did good? What's our measurement tool to know that we're worth being there? It's not enough that, hey, you were invited. And it's so interesting because, we get the whole, everyone was handpicked. We all wanted you. And this is the first time I'm like, huh, I was handpicked. And I've heard it before, but I'm like, yeah. I just give you certainty. You don't really like me, and I'm just here because it's a job to get done.
Yeah, because I'm good. I'm
Right.
really good.
And it's, you know what? It really comes down to the meaning that we give it. And then what's my measurement tool? I was allowing certain people to be my measurement tool, and I was mind reading what I thought they wanted from me, not even knowing what they wanted from me, but just mind reading, pretending that I knew, and then trying to be that. And that is where we fall into the trap of, I have to be seen and heard so I could be approved and I'm enough, and all the other things that fall in line with that. And what I realized is that's not my measurement tool anymore. Getting an applause on stage is not my measurement tool anymore. Getting validation after I do a talk is not my validation anymore. My
Right.
validation is one thing, and you asked me that. How did it make you feel? How did it make you feel when you walked off stage? How did it make you feel when you got on that airplane and you said goodbye to the event? How did that make you feel? And,
Exactly.
and my words were like, and I'm going to repeat it for the listeners, is 100% congruent with who I am. 100% congruent with who
There's
I am.
a beautiful saying about that, and that is to feel full is to feel whole.
Yes, to feel full. Here's another Chuckism, guys. Just write this one down. We're going to create a book for Chuck, okay? Because he's in the flow. He doesn't even know what he's saying.
It is such a saving grace when we don't even have to look past self in order to feel full.
Right.
The benefit is that when we feel full, our cup floweth over, and we are able to literally bathe everyone else in that caring and the contribution. And it changes the entire narrative by comparison to when we feel wanting, or we have this yearning or dissatisfaction. The truth is, I've never known of anyone that said that was perfect. If they were to be critical, I said, oh, well, what's critical? I said, it's the highest level of judgment.
Right. And it's interesting because I always say this: comparison steals our joy.
Yeah.
Comparison also puts a meaning of what we think people want. So we see one person get promoted and we're like, I'm sorry, who got promoted?
Right.
And then we start to compare, but I've been there longer, but I know more, but they
Mm,
haven't done what I've done. There's a comparison there. And all that did is, number one, it didn't make that person feel great.
no.
And it definitely didn't make me feel great.
No.
And so everybody walked away not feeling great. And
Aspiration is not inspiration.
correct. But then when you realize, like, wow, it doesn't matter how much time they had in the saddle.
No.
What if they brought a fresh perspective that no one else saw because they are so new? What could I learn from them?
Mm,
These are the questions I started to ask myself. So
yeah.
instead of comparing, I got curious. And you know, my favorite saying, curious, not critical. My favorite saying out there, everyone who listens to our show, they're like, oh, there's Veenu again, curious, not critical. Absolutely. I think I'm on my license plate to say that now, curious, not critical. But it's so true, right? If we got curious and not critical with our kids, how would they respond? If we got curious and not critical with our spouses, how would they respond? If we got curious and not critical about our business, how would it respond?
Well, if we got inquisitive instead of intense, it's there. The people go, well, what do you mean? I said, well, when we start to ask better questions, it removes the direct statements of judgment.
Right.
Like, why aren't you cleaning up your room? We go, I noticed that you made your bed this morning. Really? It looks made? I thought it looked the best that I've seen it in weeks. Thank you for taking care of that. Gosh, you're such a great kid. If mommy or daddy could ever help support you with like making sure your room is tidy, we got you. We got you, girl. We got you, son. It's like, oh wow. Why? Because now they feel supported. They feel loved. We're rewarding the things we'd love to see. And it makes us inquisitive of going, what did you do different in your room? Something looks different. I don't know what it is, but
Perhaps it's all the paint on the floor and all the clothes on your doll shelf or the
hey, it doesn't mean that we don't have learning moments constantly. And so, no, Chuck, you're trying to use reverse psychology. No, actually,
No, when they get rewarded for what they've done, they want more of it because it's a
yes,
different connection, you know. And here's the other thing that I want to say to our listeners too. We need to make sure we probably need to do a whole show on rapport
oh,
because when people are not listening, when people feel defensive from you, you know, you're probably coming in a superior posture.
yes,
You're probably, and when you come in as a superior posture that you know it all, no one's going to change your mind. You know, you're the end all be all to it. And let me tell you how it is. No one wants to listen to that. They feel intimidated by that. And I was the queen of that many years ago. And there's still times it creeps in and I catch myself because I'm a work in progress. But again, I had that because I thought if you knew I knew it all, you would want me, you would accept me, you would
right.
promote me, you know. And so it was
Hmm.
a recipe to disaster, although I thought it was a recipe to promotion.
Well, and part of it is that again we have this burning desire to feel worthy,
Yes.
and
And
so
if you see me, then I feel worthy. If you acknowledge me, then you saw my worth. But if you don't, but again, that's the meaning we gave it. How many times, Chuck, have you done something for one of your three kids and you didn't get a thank you?
oh, uh, listen, if I
Yeah,
had a penny for every moment, if I had a quarter of a penny for every moment, I'd be a freaking billionaire.
right.
So,
And vice versa. So for me too. So did we stop doing for our kids because they didn't say thank you?
of course not.
No. Did we punish them every time they didn't say thank you?
No.
No. What we did is we just accepted it in that moment. And instead of judging them like, oh, you didn't say thank you for that, it's asking them, you
Right.
know, it's giving them a teachable moment in that moment. Because here's what happens: we say, I love you, we say thank you just because we say it.
Mhm.
What's the intention behind it? And it's really about, again, being in rapport with your kids. That has to do a lot. If you're in rapport with your children, they'll listen to you a lot more because they don't feel like you're in that superior dictative moment.
Right.
and you're able to talk to them and say, look, what does gratitude mean for you? What would it look like for you if you
Right.
didn't have what you just had? Is it so much? What let me tell you what thank you means. Thank you
Yes.
means that you're acknowledging whoever it is, whether it's me, a friend, a teacher, that they took time, they took money, they took effort, they took attention to you for that moment. And you are grateful, grateful that they saw you. So
Absolutely.
if you want to keep being seen, continue to appreciate and have gratitude. And now that we've gone through that, it's not just a word. Just like sorry. I told my kids, I'm like, do not be sorry anymore. I can't hear I'm sorry. I can't hear. I took the remote control. You're in trouble. Okay, I'm sorry. Now you get to come out of your room and be able to play. No,
Right.
I want you to be aware. Be aware of your behavior,
Yes.
and you say sorry because you mean that I realize that I'm aware that I took the remote control and got you in trouble. And I will not do that again because I am aware of my actions.
Sorry is accompanied by solution.
Yes. I love that. Another
We
another Chuckism. Sorry, somebody by solution.
we have this ideology. It's like, don't bring a stack of problems. Offer solutions,
Right.
which means you noodled this over, you measured within yourself what was going on, how you were feeling, what was going on for the other people involved, and you took time to facilitate an opportunity to cultivate a solution.
Right.
That is so polite. That is so caring. That is so inquisitive. Because now people are going, how'd you come up with that? Well, you may not believe this, but I had this little situation. I had, a little bit of a scenario. And it's like, okay. And you decided to come up with a solution? Well, huh. That could be a really unique standard operating procedure to have, or to have a rule of engagement with self. Because when is there going to be a challenge? Veenu, we know this
All,
all the freaking time.
all the time.
Yeah.
And Chuck, I mean, Brian and I have never done timeouts. We've always given them opportunity. You need to go to your room because we have taught them that their room is their safe space to be upset, to be happy, to be whatever. That's their safe space for all their emotions. And when you come out of that room, you come out with what could you do differently?
Mm,
That's it. It's because we want them solution driven, right? We want to say to them, okay, you're not punished because of what you did. This is a moment to understand what you did.
right.
This is a moment for you to take ownership of what you did and find a solution so it doesn't happen again.
This is where we have a huge learning moment. And it is, hey, when you go into your room, how do you need to feel instead?
Mm,
And what would that result? What would that look like? What direction would you take now? Because we can't change what just happened.
right. It's so funny you said that because I had Samuel 2 years ago when he was 9. Um, I called it his angry journal because he just went through this spell where he was constantly angry all the time, and and he
Mhm.
would growl at everyone, and he would tense his face and everything, and he would stomp up the stairs. And so we gave him this angry journal so he can write on page 1 why he's angry. Like, let's just get it out. The next thing is, what do you need to feel different? Or no, what do you want to feel instead? What do you
Mhm.
want to feel instead? Do you want to continue feeling? Because you might want to feel angry for a little bit, but what do you want to feel instead when you're done? And what did you do to change your emotion?
Right.
Because when I read it, when he shared it with me, I asked permission and he shared it with me. A lot of it was his recipe. It's go outside and play basketball, come to my room and not listen to anybody, like just shut the door and have my time alone. Throw my stuffed animals up in the air. Like he had so many different things in there. But guess what? Now he has his recipe of that. That's all you have to do to change your state instead of sitting angry. Because
Right.
angry, and I think Mendel said this. When when you're angry, you're drinking the poison and expecting your opponent to die.
Mhm.
And it's so true because the only person who's suffering, like think of road rage. It's the person I always tell Brian, I'm like, Brian, they can't hear you. I'm the only person that's hearing you right now. Like they're already cut you off. They're already gone. They don't care, you know, anything about you right now. But you know what? I'm hearing you right now. Like you watch how low the frequency goes when someone, cuts someone off. But
Oh,
again, they can't hear you. The only person who's suffering is you and the people around you inside your frequency.
and the reason for that is that people are addicted to energy.
Yes.
And so when they get charged, they feel that they have to dissipate it.
Right.
And so some people get uber angry, others get uber quiet, and then it's like, what's wrong? What's bothering you? And they're like,
Right.
you don't know what's bothering me. Did you just not see what happened? So now there's a misunderstanding because two people are observing the exact same scenario and then not having the same reaction. Like, how dare you? I thought
Right.
you knew me better. How could you not be on my side? And it's like going, wait, what? Like,
Right.
really?
So
Um,
I mean, everything that we're saying though really is recipes to how to set people up to win. And if you guys, any listeners out there have any questions, get on social media. Chuck and I see them. Would love you to join the conversation. And
absolutely.
I love what just popped up here. When I apologize to my kids, I explain to them what I did wrong and what I can do better to role model for them. And I do the same thing.
Yes.
I will own it. I will own it in that moment. And I will say, and this is what I learned from that, and thank you for being patient while I'm still learning as well.
And I'll adjunct onto that. It's important to say it's not okay.
Right.
It's not okay. There's this tendency that as we grow in chronology, that we will go ahead and say something, go, okay, I was wrong. Well, owning it's one thing, acknowledging the fact, and then not just saying, oh, it's wrong. We go, okay, this did not feel the way I wanted to feel. And I made others feel the way I didn't intend to have you feel. And I apologize for that. That is not okay.
Right.
This
Right.
way they know that it's not the behavior, that it's owning the moment and saying, Daddy wasn't in a good space. That
Right.
doesn't make it right. It just means that I'm aware of it and I apologize to you because I didn't make it about we in the moment. I made it about me.
I agree. And I want to piggyback on that. I believe that it is about the behavior, not me, because I don't want my kids to say, mom is just like, I can't believe mom, and like put the blame on me. Let's put the blame on the behavior. I was just the conduit of that
Yeah,
behavior.
exactly.
Like with them, like my son the other day, he's like, I'm just bad. I'm like, what do you mean bad? Well, I mean, I'm just bad. I'm like, how specifically are you bad?
Right.
Like, well, I did this and this. I'm like, I'm not hearing anything about you. I'm hearing about your behavior, but I'm not hearing anything about you. And as far as I know, you're not bad. I'm like, you're the greatest kid in my book amongst your other five siblings, by the way. Just in case you're listening. Y'all six are great to me, okay?
Love you all
Yeah,
equally,
love you all equally.
exact same amount.
And it's so important that we're not giving an identity to our kids. And my daughter is so great with her words. Like she says, I just don't like all the labels you put on me, because we have been calling her a hoarder, because I'll be like, oh, here's a box I don't need anymore. I'll take the box. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm like, oh, this straw, it's not working. Oh, I'll take the straw. I'll use it. Here's what I love about my daughter. She is so creative, and she would probably make a home out of that box for her doll.
Yep.
She totally would. She'll do something with it. However, one of the challenges we're having with my daughter is that she has so much stuff she's collected for her dolls and animals, stuffed animals and all that she uses, but there's no home for those stuff. So the whole room is its home. And so we said, you don't want to be a hoarder. You don't need to take someone's trash to make it something different. And here's what's beautiful about this. She says, I'd really appreciate if you guys just stop labeling me a hoarder. And I laugh, but what I love about her is that she's already saying that's not my identity.
Right.
My actions don't make it me. And she's like, I understand I need to stop taking everyone's junk. And she says, but I do something. And she's right. She does. She does something with it.
So let's flip the script. and say, sweetheart, we truly are a VC. And so for some people in business, like a venture capitalist, no, value collector. So what she does is she collects things that have value to her. Here's the cool part though. You can say, hey, baby, can you rate this from a scale from 1 to 10 for me?
Yep.
What's the value that this has for you? Anything that's below a 5, we're going to donate.
Or we're not going to take it out of the trash.
Exactly. Yes. Well, we're donating it to science, to Mother Earth, to the landfill. We're donating it. That has a different connotation than no. And yes, if it's a 5 above, we go, ooh, tell me all the things that you're committed to doing with the value that you've collected. And it's like, now we get intentional.
Right.
It allows us to help separate from the habitual nature into something that's very guided and directed.
And what you said is not taken away from who she is, and it's not making her feel like there's a label. And I like what one of our listeners said, learning and healing from my trauma is having a positive effect on my children. I now realize things that I had passed down to them, because we do, right? We parent through our own baggage. And that's why I have my Crack the Code to Parenting video program on week 2. This is what we do. We have to put down the baggage. I talk about it all the time. And the other thing is not looking at your life as trauma. Look at it as a wound. I was just saying this today. If you had a wound on your arm and you kept picking at it and picking at it, it's still a wound. It's not a trauma. It's just a wound. But once you realize you have the antidote to finally heal it,
yes,
it's no longer a wound. It's just a scar to let you know where you were and the gifts you got from it and where you're going to go now. And so if we could start to shift the mindset of, we all have wounds.
mm-hmm.
Some of them have not been healed. Some of them have been healed, and all of a sudden something dings it again and opens up the cut again. And then we just got to find a different way to heal it. And so I just wanted to say that I just appreciate the vulnerability of our listeners here tonight.
Love it.
And so anyway, our big thing is set other people up to win helps you set yourself up to win. And if you don't go with the intention of, I'm going to do it so I win. No, go with the intention with your kids, with your spouses, partners, with your animal. It doesn't matter, with your businesses. How can I set them up to win? And just take time to ask yourself that. How do I set them up to win? And just acknowledge them for their wins. Definitely. And see how it shows up in your life differently.
No, it's so valuable. I love what Eric Astley said. So much gold tonight. Thank you. If we could put the top 3 nuggets into 3-step process, what might it look like? Example, reaction to awareness, new action ways of doing, and better results. And I'm going to use what Samuel used, and that was what you and I have espoused so many times. How am I feeling most often right now? What does that really mean to me at this moment? And how do I need to feel instead? Those 3 simple steps can move you through an emotional episode. And understand, sometimes you need to feel angry. Sometimes you need to feel sad. Sometimes you need to go through those emotional experiences and just know that none of it's wrong, that you get to feel the way that you need to feel most often.
Awesome. Awesome, brother. Thank you all for joining in tonight. Chuck, it's already time. This is it. If you have a topic that you want Chuck and I to dig deep into, please reach out to us on social media. Chuck and I both are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of them. You can find us. I'm not on TikTok though. Anyway, but you can find us on social media. Please reach out to us. We would love to dive deep into what you guys have going on so we could support you, because if you have it going on, I promise you someone else in the world has it going on. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.